My name is Zahra Santosa with name 33230096, and today I want to present about part 1, topic number 1, which is gender exclusive speech. Let's start. Gender exclusive speech. Definition, characteristic, and key concept. What is gender exclusive speech? Gender exclusive speech refers to a language that represents one gender, usually men as the norm, while excluding or making other genders less visible. It often uses masculine terms to refer to all people, creating a unequal representation in communication. Characteristic and key concept. And there are characteristic and key concept. I want to explain the characteristic first. Use masculine form as a generic reference. 2. Reflects unequal gender representation. 3. Reinforce traditional gender roles. 4. Give greater visibility to men than women. And for the key concept is generic masculine. 2. Linguistic sexism. 3. Gender exclusive language. And 4. Language and power. Theory. I use Wardrop and Fuller theory. Argues that language reflects social structure and power relation. Therefore, linguistic choice can reinforce gender inequality by presenting men as a default social category. Supporting theory. Warthout and Fuller. An introduction to sociolinguistic. According to Warthout and Fuller, language reflects social structure and power relationship. Gender-exclusive language reproduces traditional gender ideology by presenting masculine forms as the linguistic norms. Here are some references that I use. And we're moving on to authentic example number 1. The title is Why Gender Equality is Good for Everyone, Including Men. And the speaker in this example is Michelle Kimmel with platform TED. Original transcript. Michael said, when I wake up in the morning and I look in the mirror, I see a human being, kind of the generic person, you know. I'm a middle class, white man. I have no race, no class, no gender, and I'm universally generalized. Why is this example? The speaker explained how society often treats white men as a default or generic human being, making other identities appear secondary or different. Identify the sociolinguistic phenomenon. Sociolinguistic phenomenon in gender exclusive speech in this link is that the statement, I'm kind of the generic person, is illustrate how masculinity is often treated as a default social identity. Linguistic features. There are 4 linguistic features in this, which is 4 linguistic features. The first one is generic representation. 2. Male-centered perspective. 3. Invisible male privilege. And 4. Universalization of male identity. How the phenomenon appears? Because the speaker realized that society frequently treats men as a neutral or standard category, while women are viewed as a specific gender category. Why does this example represent gender-exclusive speech? Linguistic evidence. The phrase, I'm kind of the generic person, it suggests that being male is considered normal or universal. And for the social meaning in this, because men are treated as the social norms, Women experience become different or other, and male identify is often viewed as neutral. For the analysis with journal articles number 1 is Season for Music and Motion. The title is Can Gender-Fair Language Reduce Gender Stereotyping and Discrimination? Main findings: Gender-fair language increases the visibility of women. Exclusive language reduces gender stereotypes, and linguistic choice influences people's perception of gender roles. Journal 2: Editorial Language Cognition and Gender. Main finding is language influences how people think about gender. Repeated masculine forms reinforce gender bias, and exclusive language encourage more equal cognitive representation. Relation to the example is the speaker realized that he saw himself as the generic person, illustrate how language and social norms shapes people's perception of gender. This supports the journal's arguments that language influences cognition and social attitudes. Detailed interpretation. The first one is linguistic features. Use the expression generic person to describe men as a default social category, and to highlight how masculine identity is often treated as universal. And 3, demonstrate gender-exclusive language through the concept of the generic masculine. 2, social meaning. Men are perceived as the social norms, and 2, women are viewed as a separate or market group. And 3, identity construction and power relation. The speaker realized that his identity as a middle-class white man gave him a social privilege. His experience shows how language can construct identities and reinforce existing power structure. For cultural sociolinguistic implication, gender-exclusive speech reflects historical social values that position men as the standard, and 2, exclusive language helps promote equality, diversity, and respect for all genders. 5, context of communication. The speech was delivered in a TED Talk to encourage men to support gender equality. 2, the speaker used personal experience to explain how language shapes perception of privilege and gender. This example shows that language does more than communication information. It also shapes how people view gender and identity. When Michel Kimmel described himself as the generic person, he reveals how men are often treated as the social norms. This reflects power relations in society, where male experiences are considered universal, while women experiences are viewed as a difference. Therefore, using gender-exclusive language is important because it is promote equality and challenge traditional gender stereotypes. Authentic example number 2. Source information. The title that I use is Emma Watson, He for She Campaign Speech. The speaker is Emma Watson in platform Union Woman official YouTube. Original transcript. Man, I would like to take this opportunity to extend your formal invitation. Gender equality is your issue too. And another important excerpt is, both men and women should feel free to be sensitive. Both men and women should feel free to be strong. Why is this example? Because Emma Watson emphasized that gender equality should involve both men and women. Rejecting the idea that gender issues belong only to women, her speech promotes gender-exclusive language by encouraging equal participation regardless of gender. Our second authentic example comes from Emma Watson, he for she speech at the United Nations. Instead of presenting gender equality as a woman's issue alone, she explicitly invites men to participate. Her statement, gender equality is your issue too, challenges gender exclusive assumption and promotes exclusive communication. Analysis of example 2. Sociolinguistic phenomenon. Emma Watson challenged the traditional belief that gender equality concerns only women. Instead, she constructs gender equality as a shared social responsibility. Linguistic features is exclusive pronouns we are both men and women. Exclusive invitation is gender equality is your issue too. Semiotical representation of both genders. Why does it represent gender-exclusive speech? Because although the speech mainly promotes gender-exclusive language, it directly responds to the effect of gender-exclusive discourse. Where gender issues have traditionally been framed as a woman's responsibility alone, by inviting men into the conversation, Emma Watson challenged this exclusion and promotes equal participation. Analysis using Wardrop and Fuller. Wardrop and Fuller argues that language reflects social relationship and power structure. Emma Watson intentionally chose exclusive expression to reduce gender boundaries, encourage cooperation, challenge unequal gender ideology, and reconstruct gender identity through language. Emma Watson used exclusive language such as we are both men and women and gender equality is your issue too. This expression shows that gender equality should not be viewed as a woman issue alone. According to Wadroff and Fuller, language reflects social power and identity. By using exclusive language, Emma Watson challenged traditional gender ideology and encouraged collective responsibility. Comparison of example 1 and example number 2. In aspect example number 1, in TED Talk, and example 2, Emma Watson's. The main issue is in the Michael Kimmel speech is male privilege and the idea of man as the degenerate person. While for example 2, Emma Watson, and for example 2, Emma Watson's, the main issue is gender equality requires the participation of both men and women. In sociolinguistic phenomenon, for example, number 1 is gender-exclusive speech through the generic masculine, while example 2, gender-exclusive language challenging gender-exclusive assumption. In linguistic features, in example number 1, generic person, middle class, white man, and privilege, while for example number 2, Emma Watson's use we, both men and women, gender equality is your issue too. In social meaning, example 1 is reveal how language normalizes male identity. And for example number 2, the social meanings is encourage shared responsibility and equal participation. Although their approach different, both shows that language shapes social attitudes and can either reinforce or reduce gender inequality. Similarities and differences. Both discuss gender inequality, and both challenge traditional gender ideology. Both demonstrate that language influences social attitudes and identities, and both support the use of exclusive communication. And for the differences in both examples, is Michael Kimmel focused on recognizing male privilege, while Emma Watson focused on encouraging collaboration between men and women. Kimmel explained why inequality exists, while Watson emphasized how society can create change together. In a conclusion, gender-exclusive speech reflects how language can reinforce unequal gender representation by treating masculine form as the social norms. Though the example of Michael Kim and Emma Watson, it is evident that language is closely connected to identity, power, and social value. Michael Kimmel demonstrated how the concept of the generic masculine contributes to the invisibility of male privilege, while Emma Watson shows that gender-exclusive language can promote cooperation and equal participation between men and women. Now I want to explain topic number 2, which is stereotypes. Definition, characteristic, and theory. What are stereotypes? Stereotypes are generalized beliefs or assumptions about the characteristic, roles, or behavior of members of particular social groups. In sociolinguistic, stereotypes are reflected and reinforced through language, influencing how people perceive and interact with others. Characteristics simplify people identities based on social expectation rather than individual abilities, reproduced through language and communication, and can influence attitudes and discrimination. And key concept in stereotype is gender stereotype, social identity, language and ideology, social categorization, and power relation. Theory, Wardrop and Fuller. Wardrop and Fuller explained that language reflects society and its values. The way people describe men and women often reproduce social expectations and stereotypes. Therefore, language not only communicates ideas but also maintains or challenges social inequalities. Why is this topic important? Because understanding stereotype helps people recognize the biased language and promotes more exclusive and respectful communication. Book. Book that I use is Wardrop and Fuller, An Introduction to Sociolinguistic. Authentic example number 1. Source information is BU Breaking Gender Stereotypes. The speaker is Gabriella Hunk with thought from TEDx Talks on YouTube. Original transcript. Original transcript from Gabriella. Most people expect boys to have short hair, play sports, wear plain clothes, and be strong. Most people expect girls to have long hair, do gymnastics or dance, and wear the color pink or purple with dresses or skirts. Why does this example represent stereotypes? Because this example illustrates gender stereotype because society associates certain appearance, clothing, and behavior with a specific gender. Gabriel's experience shows that people often judge others based on stereotypical expectation rather than individual identity. Sociolinguistic analysis of example 1. The example illustrates gender stereotype where society assigns particular characteristic, appearance, and behavior to individuals based solely on their gender. Gabriella is judged because her appearance does not match traditional expectation of femininity. Linguistic features. 1 is generalized expression, including most people expect boys or most people expect girls. In contrastive language, boys always associate with short hair and girls always associate with long hair. An evaluate question is, you look like a boy. Why did you cut your hair? These expressions reveal how language communicates and reinforce social expectation. Why does it represent stereotypes? Because the statement assumes that boys should have short hair, girls should have long hair, and sports are associated with boys, dress and pink colors belong to girls. These assumptions are social stereotypes, not biological facts, and they influence how people judge others. Analyzing using Wardrop and Fuller. According to Wardrop and Fuller, Language reflects social norms and ideologies. These comments directed at Gabriela demonstrate how everyday language reinforces cultural belief about gender roles and acceptable behavior. Through repeated expressions such as "you look like a boy," societies construct gender identity based on appearance rather than individuality. Support the analysis with journal articles. Journal 1: Seasoning, Formalism, and Motion. With the title, Can Gender-Fair Language Reduce Gender Stereotyping and Discrimination? The main finding is language influences gender stereotypes, gender-fair language reduces discrimination, and support Gabriel expression because stereotypical comments reinforce traditional gender expectation. With title Subtle Linguistic Cues Affecting Gender Inequality. With findings, gender stereotypes are embedded in everyday language. Social expectations about boys and girls are reproduced through communication. And support Gabriel's expression because people judge her appearance using common gender stereotypes. Authentic example number 2. With title Emma Watson, her he for she campaign speech at the United Nations. With the speaker Emma Watson in platform YouTube UN Woman. Original transcript from Emma. Emma says that if women don't have to be aggressive in order to be accepted, women won't feel compelled to be submissive. Because this speech demonstrates that stereotypes are not only harmful to women, but also restrict men's emotions, behavior, and social roles. Emma Watson challenged the belief that men must always be strong and dominant, while women must always be passive and submissive. Sociolinguistic analysis of example 2. Sociolinguistic phenomenon. Emma Watson's speech illustrates gender stereotypes, where society assigns fixed roles and expectations to men and women. Examples include men are expected to be strong, aggressive, and emotionally reserved, and women are expected to be submissive, gentle, and dependent. These expectations influence how people behave and how they are judged in society. Linguistic features. Emma Watson used exclusive language such as we, everyone, men, and women, and constructive statement. If men don't have to be aggressive, women won't feel compelled to be submissive. And 3. Persuasive language. Gender equality is your issue too. These linguistic choices encourage collective responsibility rather than blaming one gender. Why does this example represent stereotype? Because men should always be emotionally strong, women should always be passive, and masculinity is linked to dominance, and femininity is linked to obedience. Emma Watson argued that these stereotypes limit opportunity and freedom for everyone. Analyzing using theory, Waldorf and Fuller. According to Waldorf and Fuller, language reflects social values and ideologies while also shaping social identities. Emma Watson's speech challenged dominant gender ideologies by using inclusive and empowering language, rather than reinforce stereotypes. Her language promotes equality and encourages society to rethink traditional gender roles. Supportive research and detailed interpretation. Supporting research Journal 1, Season and Formalistic in Motion, with the title Can Gender-Fair Language Reduce Gender Stereotyping and Discrimination? With main findings, gender-exclusive language reduces stereotypical thinking, and 2. Language influence how people perceive gender roles. 3. Inclusive communication promotes equality and reduces discrimination. In relation to Emma Watson's speech is Emma Watson consistently used exclusive expressions such as we, everyone, and men and women. These linguistic choices support the journal findings that gender-fair language encourage more equal social attitudes. Journal 2 from Farmonovic and Hansen with title Subtle Linguistic Cause Affecting Gender Inequality. With main findings, small linguistic choice can reinforce or challenge gender inequality. And 2. Everyday language influence how people understand gender roles. In relation to Emma Watson's speech is Emma Watson intentionally avoids language that blame one gender. Instead, She emphasized shared responsibility, demonstrating how careful language choice can challenge stereotype rather than reinforce them. A comparison with example 1 and example 2. From aspect source, example 1 is that but the main issue is gender stereotype based on appearance and clothing. While example number 2, the main issue is gender stereotype in society and leadership. And for sociolinguistic phenomenon, in example 2, Gabriela Hawk explained that everyday gender stereotypes, while in example 2, Emma Watson explained gender stereotypes and gender equality. And for the language style, in example 1, Gabriela used personal and narrative, while Emma used formal, persuasive, and motivational. For social content, Gabriela Hawk share his daily life experience, while Emma is international public speech. For the main message is, in example 1, Gabriel Hawk states that people should not judge others based on appearance. Well, example 2, gender equality benefits both men and women. Similarities with both discussion gender stereotypes. Both challenge traditional gender roles, and both shows that language shapes social perceptions, and both promote equality, respect, and exclusion. And the differences is Gabriela focused on personal experience of being stereotyped, and Emma Watson focused on broader social issue and policy level gender equality. Gabriela issues storytelling, while Emma Watson used persuasive public speaking. Conclusion: this presentation demonstrates that gender stereotypes are socially constructed beliefs that influence how people perceive and evaluate others. Through language, stereotypes are expressed, reinforced, and sometimes challenged in everyday communication. The two authentic examples illustrate this phenomenon from different perspectives. One, Gabriel Hawk highlights how stereotypes affect individual in daily life through assumptions about appearance, clothing, and behavior. While Emma Watson emphasized that gender stereotypes affect both women and men and argues that achieving gender equality requires the participation of everyone. And that's my presentation, part 1, social linguistic. And we're moving on to part number 2. Now I want to present Sociolinguistic Part 2. Part 2, Gender Exclusive Speech. Case study. A technology company is recruiting new employees. During an online meeting, the manager repeatedly says, every employee must submit his report before Friday. A good programmer should improve his coding skills regularly. Several female employees feel that the language used excludes women and reinforces male-centered assumptions in the workplace. What is gender-exclusive speech? Before we analyze the study case, we have to know what is the definition of gender. Gender-exclusive speech refers to a language that represents only one gender, usually men, while excluding or making other gender less visible. For this example is woman. This type of language often uses masculine pronouns such as he, him, or his as a generic reference for all people. According to Wardrop and Fuller, language reflects social relationship and power structure. Therefore, gender-exclusive language is not merely a grammatical issue, but also a social practice that can reinforce gender inequality. In professional and educational settings, inclusive language is encouraged because it is acknowledged the presence and equal participation of all genders. Why can the manager language be considered gender exclusive? The managerial language is considered gender exclusive because he constantly uses the masculine pronouns such as his to refer to all employees and programmers regardless of gender. Example is every employee must submit his report before Friday. A good programmer should improve his coding skills regularly. Although the manager may intend his as a generic pronoun, many listeners interpret it as referring specifically to a man. As a result, female employees may feel excluded or overlooked. What social and linguistic effect? First, female employees may feel excluded from the workplace because the language explicitly positions men as the norm. And two, repeated exposure to masculine generic language may strengthen gender stereotypes, particularly the belief that technical professions such as programming are naturally associated with men. Third, such language may reduce women's sense of belonging, confidence, and professional identity within the organization. This can negatively affect workplace exclusivity and employee satisfaction. What alternative language form could be used? The manager can use gender-exclusive language that refers equally to all employees. Original: every employee must submit his report before Friday. An exclusive alternative is every employee must submit their report before Friday, or all employees must submit their report before Friday. Analyze the case using one theory from a sociolinguistic textbook. A theory from a sociolinguistic textbook is Waldorf and Fuller. Waldorf and Fuller explain that language reflects social identity, socially relationship, and power structure. Applied to this case, the manager repeated use of masculine pronouns reflect historical gender norms in which men are treated as a standard participation in professional environment. Therefore, the language unintentionally reinforced unequal gender representation. Journal Article 1. Gastel argues that masculine generic language is influenced people's perception by making male image more cognitively accessible than female image. These findings support the present case because employees hearing his report and his coding skills are more likely to picture male workers, reinforcing the stereotype that programs are primarily men. Journal Article 2. Stolberg, Brown, Arman, and Sisson. Stolberg explained that gender-fair language increases the visibility of women and promotes more equal social presentation. Their research supports replacing masculine generic pronouns with exclusive alternatives such as singular they and plural construction because these forms reduce gender bias in communication. Topic 2. Density. Case study. Two lecturers explain the same topic to students. Lecture A says, language is a system of communication. And lecture B says, language functions as a dynamic symbolic system facilitating the transmission and negotiation of meaning across diverse social cultural contexts. Many students report that lecture B explained is more difficult to understand because it contains the high concentration of information. What is linguistic density? Linguistic density refers to the amount of information packed into a sentence or discourse through complex vocabulary, grammatical structures, and nominalized expression. A text with high linguistic density contains more concept and meaning within few words or clause, requiring greater cognitive effort from readers or listeners to interpret the message. According to Halliday and Matheson, linguistic density is closely related to lexical density, which refer to a proposition of lexical words such as noun, verbs, adjective, and adverbs to grammatical function words. How does density affect communication and comprehension? Linguistic density significantly influences both communication and comprehension because it determines how easily information can be processed by listeners or readers. Linguistic phenomenon. The phenomenon illustrated in this case is variation in lexical density, where two speakers express the same idea using different levels of informatical complexity. Lecture A uses a short and direct sentence with a simple vocabulary. Code language is a system of communication. Lecture B conveys the same concept but incorporate several abstract academic terms. Language functions as a dynamic symbolic system facilitating the transmission and negotiation of meaning across diverse social cultural contexts. The second sentence contains a multiple techniques concept, including dynamic, symbolic system, transmission, negotiation of meaning, and social cultural context. These lexical choices increase informatical density. What are the advantage and disadvantage of dense language? For the advantage is for the greater precision. Dense language allows speakers to express complex ideas accurately using specialized terminology. And two, efficient information delivery. Experts can communicate large amount of information, making academic writings. Three, professional and academic credibility. Using precise terminology demonstrate disciplinary knowledge and professional expertise. Four, conceptual depth. Dense language enables speakers to explain relationship among abstract concepts more thoroughly than simplified language. Disadvantage. One is reduced comprehension. Students with limited background knowledge may struggle to understand highly dense explanation. Two, increased cognitive leap. Listeners must process numerous unfamiliar concepts simultaneously, which may reduce learning efficiency. Three, communication barriers. Dense academic language may unintentionally exclude non-expert or second language learner. And four, lower student engagement. When explanations become For lower students' engagement. When explanations become excessively technical, students may lose motivation because they cannot easily follow the discussion. Analyze. A theory from a textbook from Holliday and Matthiasen. According to Holliday and Matthias' systemic functional linguistic, academic language is characterized by high lexical density and grammatical metaphor. In this case, lecture B demonstrates higher lexical density by embedding multiple academic concepts into a single sentence, while lecture A, on the other hand, used lower lexical density, making the explanation easier for students to process. Journal Article 1. Jure. Jure introduced the concept of lexical density by measuring the proposition of lexical words with scores. This finding supports the present case because lecture B explanation resemble formal academic writing rather than everyday spoken communication. And for Journal Article 2, Crunchley and Kiley. Crunchley and examines linguistic features associated with text complexity and reading comprehension. Their findings indicate that increased lexical certification and information density often reduce comprehension for less experienced readers. Applied to this case, Lecture B dense explanation may benefit advanced linguistic students but overwhelm beginners. Lecture A simple language provide better accessibility for introductory learners. Topic 3. Complexity. Case study. A university website published the following announcement. Version A, students must submit the form by Friday. And for the version B, students who are complete the registration process and fulfill all administrative requirements are required to submit the form before the specific deadline. Many students find version B more difficult to process. What is linguistic complexity? Linguistic complexity refers to a degree of structural sophistication in language, including the grammatical, syntactic, lexical, and discourse features. According to Ellis and Beck-Hudson, linguistic complexity reflects the range and sophistication of language structure that speakers or writers use to express ideas. In sociolinguistic, complexity is not merely a linguistic characteristic, but also a communicative choice influenced by the purpose of communication, audience, and social context. Which version demonstrates a greater complexity? Version B demonstrates significantly greater linguistic complexity than version A. Version A is a student must submit the form by Friday. This sentence is short, direct, and grammatical simple. It consists of a single independent clause containing one clear instruction. The vocabulary is familiar and easy to understand. And for the version B, students who are complete the registration process and fulfill all administrative requirements are required to submit the form before the specific deadline. Version B is considerably more complex because it contains a relative clause, compound verb phrase, and formal academic vocabulary, a passive construction, and more information packed into one sentence. How can syntactic complexity affect understanding? Syntactic complexity influences comprehension by increasing the cognitive effort required to process sentence structure. Long sentences with embedded clause require readers to retain multiples of information in working memory before fully interpreting the message. In the present case, students reading version B must first interpret the relative clause, who has completed the registration process and fulfilled all administrative requirements before reaching the main instruction, are required to submit the form. This delay increases processing demands and may reduce comprehension efficiency. When is complex language appropriate? One, in academic writing. Research article and university textbook often require sophisticated sentence structure to explain theoretical concepts comprehensively. Two, legal documents. Contract, regulation, and laws use complex language to minimize ambiguity and define precise legal responsibility. Three, government police. Three, government police. Official police documents often employ a complex syntax to describe detailed procedure. And four, professional reports. Technical reports and scientific publication frequently contains complex language because they address expert audience familiar with specialized terminology. Analyze the case. Theory from textbook by Ellis and Barkhuizen explain that linguistic complexity refers to the sophistication of grammatical structure and lexical choice used in communication. More advanced language typically contains longer clause, embedded structure, and greater synthetic version. Apply this theory to present case. Version B demonstrates a greater complexity because it is include multiple grammatical structure beyond a simple independent clause. Journal Article 1 from Ortega. Ortega conducts a comprehensive review of research syntactic complexity and conclude that increased syntactic complexity generally reflects more advanced language use. In Article 2, Liu developed computational measure for exploring syntactic complexity in written English. Journal Article 2. Liu developed computational measure for evaluating syntactic complexity in written English. This research demonstrates that longer sentence, greater clause embedding, and more elaborate grammatical structure significantly increase syntactic complexity. Applied to this case, version B exhibits several indicators identified by Liu, including embedded relative clause, multiple verb phrase, and increased sentence length. Topic 4. Style. Case study. A study sends the following message to a professor. Message A. Hey, prof, what's up? I need your signature essay. Later, the same students write message B, "Good morning, Professor. I would like to request your signature on my academic form. Thank you for your assistance." The professor responds more positively to the second message. What is language style? Language styles refer to the way speakers or writers choose linguistic forms according to the social situation, purpose of communication, and relationship between participants and level of formality. It includes choice of vocabulary, sentence structure, expression, tone, and politeness strategy. From a sociolinguistic perspective, language style is not random. Rather, it reflects social norms and identity. According to Joss, language style can be classified into 5 levels: frozen, formal, consultative, casual, and intimate. Each style is appropriate for different communicative contexts. How do the two methods differ stylistically? The two methods difference is in terms of vocabulary, tone, sentence structure, and level of formality and politeness. Message A. These messages use informal greetings such as "Hey," abbreviated title "Prof," and casual expression "What's up," abbreviation "ASAP." Direct command like request. "I need your signature." The language resembles communicative between close friends rather than between a student and professor. Message B. Good morning, Professor. I would like to request your signature on my academic form. Thank you for your assistance. This message use formal greeting, complete professional title Professor, polite indirect request. I would like to request an expression of gratitude and respectful tone. Why is the second message more appropriate? The second message is more appropriate because it's aligned with the social norms governing communication between students and professor. Several linguistic features contribute to its appropriateness. Formal greeting, beginning with "Good morning, Professor," establishes respect from the start of the interaction. Polite requests, such as "I would like to request," and is considerably more polite than "I need," because it reduces complexity and allows the professor greater conversational autonomy. Why is the second message more appropriate? Because this complete professional title, using professional professor instead of prof, recognize the professor academic position and institutional status. 2. Express of gratitude. Ending with "Thank you for your assistance," demonstrate appreciation. Thank you for your assistance demonstrate appreciation and positive politeness. Appropriate tone. Overall, the second message reflects professionalism, curiosity, and awareness of academic etiquette. Consequently, the professor responds more positively because the student's language confirms the aspect social compensation. How does style influence interpersonal relationship? Language style plays a crucial role in shaping interpersonal relationships because it communicates not only information but also attitudes, respect, solidarity, and social identity. Positive effect of appropriate style. Strengthen mutual respect, promote positive and social interaction, and reduce misunderstanding. Facilitate cooperation and create favorable impression. Negative effect is appear disrespectful, reduce professional credibility, and create negative first impression, and weaken institutional relationship and discourage positive response. Analyze the case using one theory from a textbook and 2 journal articles. A. Theory from a textbook. From Joss proposed 5 language styles. One is frozen style, formal, consultative style, casual style, and intimate style. According to this framework, communication between students and professors typically belongs to the consultative or formal style because participants maintain professional relationship and institutional role. Journal Article 1. Brown and Levinson. Brown and Levinson politeness theory argues that speakers use politeness strategy to protect both their own and other place or public self-image. Indirect requests such as "I would like to request" are examples of negative politeness, which minimize imposition upon the listener. In contrast, "I need your signature ASAP" places greater pressure on the professor and threatens the listener's negative phase because it expresses urgency without mitigating the request. This theory explains why message B is perceived as more respectful and socially appropriate. From Economy book Cogitidis. Economy do Cogitidis is an email request written by university students and found that many learners overuse the direct request when communication with professor. This finding directly supports the present case because message B incorporates precisely this politeness strategy, resulting in a more favorable response from the professor. 5. Context. During a classroom presentation, a student says, "This project is really sick." Some students interpret the statement as negative, while others understand it as a meaning excellent or impressive. The lecturer asks the class why different interpretation occurs. What is context in sociolinguistic? In sociolinguistic, context refers to the social, cultural, linguistic, and situational circumstances in which communication occurs. Context helps speakers and listeners interpret the intended meaning of an utterance beyond its literal and dictionary definition. The same linguistic expression may convey different meaning depending on who is speaking, who is listening, and where the interaction takes place. According to Waldorf and Wolf and Fuller, language cannot be understood independently of its social context because meaning is shaped by the relationship between language and society. Sociolinguistics emphasize that communication is influenced not only by grammar and vocabulary, but also by its social environment and which language is used. Why can the same expression have different meanings? Because uh, language is inherently context-dependent. Words and expressions often develop multiple meanings over time, and speakers rely on contextual cause to determine the intended interpretation. What contextual factors influence? A. Social context. Age, educational background, and social growth significantly influence language interpretation. Younger students familiar with contemporary slang are more likely to interpret sick positively. B. Cultural context. Different speech communication assign different meanings to words. In some English-speaking B. Cultural context. Different speech communicators assign different meanings to words. 6. Commonly function as a positive slang expression. In other communities, the traditional meaning remains dominant. How does context affect communication? There are positive effect and negative effect. For positive effect is communications become more efficient, ambiguity decrease, and meaning are interpreted accurately. Interpersonal relationships are strengthened. For negative effect, when contextual knowledge different, misunderstood occurs, ambiguity increase, and communication become less effective. Social interactions may be disrupted. In the present case, the lecture question highlights is important because of contextual awareness is in the printing language. Analyze the case using one theory. Wardorf and Fuller argues that language cannot be separate from its social context, meaning is constructed through interaction between linguistic forms and social circumstances. Between linguistic forms and social circumstances. Their sociolinguistic framework explained that interpretation depends upon speaker identity, listener identity, social relationship, communicative purpose, and cultural expectation. Applying this theory, the expression "this project is realistic" cannot be interpreted solely according to dictionary meaning. Journal Article 1 from Tagliamonte. Research on adolescent language demonstrate that young speakers frequently innovate vocabulary, assign new meaning to existing words. Journal Article 2 by Danielle argues that pragmatic interpretation depends heavily upon contextual information rather than literal words' meaning. Listeners infer intended meaning by considering communicative situation, speaker intention, and shared acknowledge. Conceptual expectation. Applied to this case, students who recognize the classroom context and the speaker's positive attitudes infer the seek express admiration rather than criticism. Topic 6. Register. A medical doctor writes the following statement in a patient medical record. The patient exhibits symptoms of hypertension and required immediate pulmonological intervention. The patient exhibits symptoms of hypertension and requires immediate pharmacological intervention. Later, while speaking to the patient family, the doctor says, "Your family members have high blood pressure and needs medication soon." Although both statements communicate essentially the same medical condition, they employ different language variety. This illustrates how speakers adjust their language according to the communicative context, audience, and purpose. What is register? In sociolinguistic, register refers to a variety of language that is selected according to the situation in which communication occurs. According to Holiday and Hassan, register is characterized by three dimensions: field, tenor, and mode. Field refers to a subject, uh, matter, or activity. Tenor refers to the relationship between participant, and mode refers to the channel of communication. Together, these dimensions influence speaker linguistic choice. Why does the doctor use different language in different situations? Because the audience, communicative purpose, and context differ significantly. Linguistic phenomena. The linguistic phenomenon illustrated in this case is register variation. In the medical record, the doctor writes, "The patient exhibits symptoms of hypertension and require immediate pharmacological intervention." This statement implies this term provides scientific precision and are more appropriate for communication among healthcare and professionals. When speaking to the patient family, however, the doctor says, "Your family member has high blood pressure and needs medication soon." Here, the doctor shifts to an everyday register, replacing specialized medical terminology with vocabulary that is more familiar to a non-expert. What factors influence register choice? Several social factors influence register selection. The first is audience. The audience is one of the most significant determinants of register. B. Communicative purpose. Medical records require scientific accuracy and legal precision. C. Social relationship. Communication among colleagues typically employs specialized professional language. D. Topic. Field. Medical discussion naturally involve technical concepts that may require input and specialized terminology. However, those concepts can often be explained using everyday language without changing their essential meaning. How does register affect communication effectiveness? Positive effect for register is improved comprehension, reduce misunderstanding, and increase communication efficiency, strengthen trust between participants, and support successful professional interaction. And for the negative effect is If the doctor used a technical medical register when speaking to the family, the relative might misunderstand the diagnosis or become unnecessarily anxious. Conversely, using overly informal language in official medical documentation could reduce precision and fail to meet a professional standard. Analyze the case using theory. Theory from Halidat and Hassan that register varies according to the field, tenor, and mode. Field concern the activity being discussed. Tenor concern the social relationship between participants. Mode concern whether communication is spoken or written. Journal Article 1. Ferguson, the case of medical register. Ferguson explained that medical professionals routinely alternate between technical medical terminology and simplified language depending on their audience. Medical register facilitate precise communication among healthcare professionals, whereas simplified explanation improve patient understanding. These findings directly support the present case because the doctor adjusts vocabulary without changing the essential medical information. Journal Article 2, Form Street, Marco, Aurora, and Epstein. Street investigated that physician-patient communication and found that communication equality improves when physicians adapt their language to patient educational backgrounds and linguistic abilities. The study concluded that patient-centered communication enhances understanding, certification, trust, and treatment adherence. Topic 7. Stereotypes. During a company meeting, a manager stated, "Women are naturally better at communication, while men are naturally better at leadership." Several employees disagree and argue that such statements promote stereotypes rather than reflect individual ability. What are linguistic and social stereotypes? Is Linguistic and social stereotypes are generalized beliefs, assumptions about particular social groups that are expressed and reinforced through language. In sociolinguistic, stereotypes are viewed as socially constructed rather than biologically determined. Language reflects and reproduces social beliefs, values, and ideology. Consequently, repeated stereotypical expression may influence how people perceive themselves and others. How can stereotypes be reflected and reinforced through language? In a linguistic phenomenon, linguistic literacy in this case is stereotypical language, specifically gender stereotyping. The manager states, "Women are naturally better at communication, and men are naturally better at leadership." These statements employ generic generalization, presenting personal assumption as universal truth. The use of the word naturally is particularly significant because it suggests that communication and leadership ability are biologically predetermined rather than influenced by education, experience, and personality or opportunity. What are the potential consequences of stereotype in professional environment? Gender stereotype can produce significant consequences for both individual and organization. A. For workplace discrimination. Employees may be evaluated according to stereotypes rather than actual performance or qualification. B. Limited career opportunity. Women may be overlooked for leadership positions because they are assumed to be naturally better communicators rather than the leaders. Similarly, men may be discouraged from pursuing careers emphasizing interpersonal communication or caregiving. C. Reduce workplace diversity. Stereotypes support organizations from recognizing the individual talents beyond traditional gender expectation. D. Lower employee motivation. Employees who feel judged according to stereotypes may experience reduced confidence, motivations, and job satisfaction. How can language be used to reduce stereotypes? Language can reduce stereotypes by emphasizing individual ability rather than group characteristics. Several strategies can be employed. Use inclusive language. Instead of saying women are naturally better at communication, a more inclusive alternative is effective communication skill can be developed by individuals regardless of gender. Instead of saying Men are naturally better at leadership. A more appropriate statement is leadership ability depends on experience, competence, and personal qualities rather than gender. Analyze the case. Theory from a textbook. Waldorf and Fuller argue that language reflects social identity, social structure, and power relationship. And for the journal article 1, Eagley and Carroll developed the role congruity theory of prejudice towards female leaders. Their research demonstrates that women often experience prejudice because leadership is culturally associated with masculine characteristics. And C. Journal Article 2. Stolberg, Brown, Arman, and Sisson examine the relationship between language and gender representation. Their research concludes that language significantly influences cognitive representation of social groups. Gender-fair language increases the visibility of women and reduces stereotypical thinking. Here is the reference that I use. And that's all for my presentation project, part 1 and part 2. Thank you for listening, Miss.